Mick Cronin threatens a roster upheaval at UCLA. Mr. LAFC eyes greener pastures with San Jose. And Russell Westbrook will miss substantial time with a broken hand. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is March 2nd, 2024. I am back in St. Loser misery, and I think I'm coming down with something, so I'm going to be struggling through this clip. Bear with me. We will get through it. Do you like being in the know about LA sports? Well, if you do, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means comment. Even when I'm under the weather, I will do my best to get back. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. We mentioned Russell Westbrook, and we'll go in depth about that in a moment. But still, James Harden led the way with 28 points. Clippers 140, Washington 115. And today, this is a good schedule. This is going to be a lot of fun. Denver is at the Lakers at 5:30. LeBron James is just 9 points away from being the first player in NBA history to score 40,000 points. Meanwhile, it is Galaxy game day. They are on their first road trip up north. They'll take on San Jose at 7:30. LAFC is playing Real Salt Lake at 11 a.m. UCLA basketball is at 19th ranked Washington State. Now, after Thursday's loss, Mick Cronin again yelled at his players about giving up 90 points. Did it get through? Well, the threats got bigger, and we'll describe that in a moment. USC is at Washington. That is at 1. And let's get to the news. So, just seconds ago, I mentioned that Mick Cronin just waylaid into his team after it allowed not 90, but 94 points to Washington on Thursday. Now, during said tirade, he intimated that there were going to be tryouts for the rest of the season just to remain on the team. Tryouts. Kind of like Heath Ledger's Joker with the pool cue in The Dark Knight, right? UCLA basketball is talking aggressive expansion. And this is what Cronin said, quote, "I'm trying to figure out who I can build a program with. You can't build a program with guys who won't fight," unquote. Which sounds great, right? You do want guys who could fight. Totally agree. But that wasn't enough for Mick Cronin. He had to take it a step too far. This is my problem. He said that the performance on Thursday, quote, "wasn't a Mick Cronin team out there," unquote. Yes, it was. It absolutely was a Mick Cronin team out there. My problem with the UCLA basketball coach is that once again, this isn't the first time, once again, he is trying to shift all of the blame off of him onto a bunch of teenagers. Teenagers. Some barely 20. Most of the UCLA roster probably not even drinking age. No. I'm the grown man. I'm still going to take all the blame from me and put it on these teenagers' shoulders, taking zero responsibility whatsoever. It was, in fact, a Mick Cronin team. You know how I know? These are the players he wanted, right? For example, he could have really pleaded for Amari Bailey to stay. He knew Amari Bailey last year wasn't ready to go to the NBA. The kid thought he was one and done. What happens? Bailey gets drafted by Charlotte, right? Charlotte is terrible. Could Amari Bailey be a difference maker? Apparently not. He's played in 3 NBA games this year, a grand total of 5 minutes in the NBA. Spent his entire time in the G League. So you can't tell me that he would have benefited. Of course he would have benefited from another year at UCLA. Learned how to be a pro. And oh, by the way, that would have definitely benefited Mick Cronin and UCLA because they need a scorer, right? You don't fill a roster after all of those players leave with teenagers and expect them to be world beaters right off the bat. And not only that, teenagers not from the United States, but teenagers from Europe. Europe plays a different brand of basketball than the United States. There's a reason that there's a specific finesse move called the Euro step. It's finesse in Europe. Ain't no Rucker Park in Belgrade. And Mick Cronin knew all this. And he's still throwing teenagers under the bus. Sorry, I don't respect that. Show some responsibility, coach. That is a Mick Cronin team. And I have a lot of respect for UCLA basketball. I don't have respect for this. Let me know what you think. Carlos Vela is in advanced talks to leave LAFC for San Jose. This is according to The Athletic. Yes, the guy known as Mr. LAFC, heading north to become Papa Smurf. Now, Mr. LAFC, Vela, has scored 93 goals in 187 matches with the black and gold. But he's 35. And let's be real, past the prime, no question. Now, LAFC general manager John Thornton, he has been talking a good game for months. LAFC has been bleeding talent. It's been a death by 1,000 cuts. Granted, they win their season opener. Can't take that away from them. But that was a lot of talent that they lost from a team that went to MLS Cup final last year. He keeps talking about how it's going to be any day now, how they're going to replace the players that they've lost. And he is about to lose the face of the franchise. Carlos Vela, down since day one until now. Now, the deal is not done. Don't want to front about that. But you can definitely see why San Jose would want him. They need scoring help. Their best player, Cade Cowell, the Quakes sent him to Liga MX to play for Chivas. So they need the help. Now, if you're a Galaxy fan, as I am, I would imagine many of you guys are taking profound joy from seeing the denial on social media. Oh no, Vela's not going to leave us for San Jose. Vela's not going to leave us. He will if John Thornton doesn't get on the phone. Straight and simple. Straight and simple. In other LAFC news, give me a second, because I need to set this up so we can eventually tie Los Angeles into it. MLS has been trying to exercise this false sense of superiority, monopolizing soccer in the United States. Right? They're trying to monopolize things, shut other leagues out, which is very crass, because soccer being the world's game, virtually every nation has more than one soccer league. If you hear the phrase, oh, this is the top flight in England, when they refer to the Premier League, that's because you have all these leagues underneath it with teams fighting to get into the Premier League. MLS doesn't like that. You cannot work your way up from USL and get into MLS unless you pay them hundreds of millions of dollars. It doesn't matter what you do in the USL. So MLS is trying to pull out of something called the US Open Cup, which is a tournament for every American team. They simply don't want to have egg on their face. They don't want to have MLS teams losing to USL teams, which, by the way, has happened. This really raised a lot of ire on social media and with US Soccer, which oversees everything in the United States. So MLS first tried to withdraw completely, and now they're trying to split the baby by allowing just 8 teams in. This is where LA gets drawn in. LAFC is invited. The LA Galaxy's big club is not. Now, there are teams who are angry that they were not invited. At least 3 of them: Philadelphia, St. Louis, Cincinnati. We don't know if the Galaxy actually would like to play or not. Perhaps if the social media angst continues, we'll find out a little bit more about this. But LAFC invited to the US Open Cup, the 5-time MLS Cup champions, No. Russell Westbrook, we mentioned earlier, he did play for the Clippers last night, but he left the game after having played only 10 minutes in the first half. Now, if you don't follow the Clippers regularly, you might be thinking that's a major loss for the Clippers. After all, Westbrook is a former MVP, and a broken hand means he's probably out for the entirety of March, maybe even longer. Here's the thing, I'm not sure statistically that it's a big thing. James Harden is the starter, and Russell Westbrook, to his credit, did the Clippers a solid by sacrificing his minutes so that Harden could be the primary point guard. Very, very giving of Westbrook. If you have that kind of rep, if you are a former MVP, do you really want to give up your minutes? Of course not. So kudos to Westbrook for playing the team game. So I will say this though, Westbrook's minutes, because they had diminished so much, maybe 10, maybe 15 a game, I don't think statistically it's that huge of a deal. In the locker room it may be, the players love him. The thing the Clippers have to ask themselves now is if Bones Hyland is finally ready to step up. He thinks very highly of himself. He simply hasn't had the game to match. Now's the chance to show people that he actually does in fact have that game. If you are unfamiliar with how the NFL manipulates the press prior to the NFL draft, UCLA's Laiatu Laitu is a case study. You can learn a lot about media manipulation by how they're talking about Laitu. Literally just yesterday on this show, I was going through the numbers from the NFL Combine, right? His Combine numbers, they were good, but they weren't amazing. And then all of a sudden the analysts are like, oh my God, his stock is dropping like a rock. Oh, it's like the Titanic sinking. There's Leonardo DiCaprio freezing to death. That's how much they thought Laitu's stock was dropping after his performance in the Combine. Right? Wrong. Media manipulation. It's less than 24 hours later, and CBSSports.com produced an article about how Laitu is really, he's the feel-good story of the Combine. It just makes you feel so good. Are you deprived of the feels? Do you need feels in your life? Here's a plate full of Laiatu Laitu to satiate you. It is crazy. Here's what they were talking about. No. Now you can just ignore the numbers because after all, he survived neck surgery. And as one NFL executive said, Laitu, quote, is plug in and play on day one, unquote. Why, it's not only that, he could play in a 3-4 defense or a 4-3 defense and excel either way. What technique on the rush. And so I bring this up to you because, again, media manipulation. This is a flim-flam. A little more than 24 hours ago, everybody thought Laitu was running the 40 carrying a refrigerator on his back. Now he's this technical master, like he's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So look, people were asking me about this yesterday. There are teams who really value the Combine numbers. You've heard the phrase workout warrior at some point, right? Some teams really do value that. Sometimes valuing the numbers matters, and other times it can bite you in the rear. Consider the Raiders. They've always valued speed. One year they valued it so much they drafted the fastest wide receiver in the first 10 picks of the first round. Darius Hayward-Bay couldn't catch football. That's a problem. So the point is, I don't know if Laitu will be the first edge rusher taken. He will be taken. He's very likely going to be taken in the first round. So take the media manipulation, tuck it off to the side. He's a first rounder. By the way, there were two other Bruins who were invited to the Combine. One was edge rusher Gabriel Murphy, the other linebacker Darius Muasau. All I can do about them is guess, okay? I think both of them wind up going day 3 in the draft, from what I've been reading, from what I've been seeing. ESPN wrote this really long article about what a weirdo Coach Jim Harbaugh is with the Chargers. And you know what? I get it. Jim Harbaugh is weird. He works out in khakis. That's weird. He runs hills with when he was a college coach, he would run hills with his college players. He would wind up throwing up and then run some more as if it was nothing. Yeah, that's weird. Even when he was hired by the Chargers, the day before he had his introductory press conference, Harbaugh went to a local Home Depot, bought a shop vac, and personally vacuumed out the Chargers' weight room. Very strange behavior. I acknowledge that. But there is a method to the madness. Here is the bottom line from a former Harbaugh player. Quote, "Dudes was ready to get suspended for him. That's how you knew that the love was real," unquote. So in other words, the players love him for it. Would anyone do that for Brandon Staley? Would anyone risk getting suspended for Brandon Staley? Of course not. So that's one of the things that might be an odd reason for optimism. Embrace the weird. The Lakers signed a guy who was once projected to be the nation's top prospect in college, Harry Giles. But to be frank, it's going to be a flyer for, if anything. He'll wind up going to the G League. Giles had a bunch of knee issues when he played at Duke, and he hasn't played much in his 4-year professional career. So the upshot is this, is that they're going to see if the guy can actually hold up playing in a G League schedule. Maybe he'll get a cup of coffee with the Lakers, but I wouldn't look at this as something that's going to put them anywhere further than what they already have. But you let me know what you think of the comments thread. Do you believe, as I do, that Mick Cronin is throwing teenagers under the bus to save his own reputation? What do you think about Carlos Vela possibly abandoning LAFC? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll try to be back later tonight with a Galaxy Rapid recap. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.